Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine walking through a forest at night, right, with a UV flashlight
Uh-huh.
and seeing, like, ordinary squirrels radiating pink or scorpions glowing blue.
Yeah. Or even sharks shimmering green. It sounds, well, pretty wild.
Totally. But this bizarre fluorescence, this photoluminescence, it turns out it's actually surprisingly widespread in the animal kingdom.
Right. And what's fascinating here is that our listener sources, they're really pointing to a kind of fundamental shift in how we understand the animal world.
A shift how?
Well, this unexpected visual dimension, this ability to absorb ultraviolet light and then like re-emit it, it suggests this whole hidden layer of communication.
Or maybe even camouflage.
Exactly. Things we're only just starting to really glimpse. So the big question, the one we're diving into today, is why? Why do so many creatures have this ability to essentially glow under UV?
Exactly. And we're diving into this glowing world with research that shows this isn't just a few weird cases. We might be talking about something almost universal. So just quickly, photoluminescence is basically when something absorbs light, often UV, maybe from the sun or moon,
Right, an external source.
and then it spits that light back out. Sometimes it's visible light we can see. Sometimes it's still UV, which, we can't see without special gear.
Yeah, you hear terms like fluorescence, phosphorescence. They're just specific types of this whole glowing thing.
And it's really different from creatures making their own light, right? Like fireflies.
Totally different. That's bioluminescence. These animals, they're more like reflectors using existing UV light. So you need that UV source.
Got it.
But what's just, well, astonishing is how common it seems to be
Yeah.
across so many different kinds of animals.
The numbers are frankly mind-boggling. So one study looked at snakes,
Uh-huh.
found that a massive 90%, 90 of the 110 species they checked showed some kind of UV coloration or reflection.
90%? Wow.
Then you've got frogs, 92% of 187 species glowed under UV light.
Okay, that's huge too.
And it keeps going. 95 species of coral reef fish, 181 bird species with feathers that pop under UV.
Birds too, interesting.
And get this, mammals. 95% of the 148 species they tested had fur that just lit up.
95% of mammals. That really makes you wonder what we've been missing just looking with our own eyes.
Curiously, it really forces us to, I don't know, rethink some basic ideas about how animals see their world, how they interact.
There's this great quote from zoologist Linda Reinhold. She led that mammal study. She basically concluded that photoluminescence is the norm, not the exception.
The norm.
Yeah. And she even said from her own experience going out at night that pretty much all glow.
Yeah.
Just blows that whole idea of it being some rare special thing out of the water.
Right. You'd think something that common would have really obvious reasons. And, initially the scientists thought, okay, maybe reproduction.
Makes sense as a starting point.
I mean, you see it in plants, right? UV patterns on flowers guiding pollinators like little landing strips.
Uh-huh. Or birds, some birds like puffins, their beaks have UV elements. Seems important for attracting mates. So yeah, reproduction was a logical first guess.
Signaling for mates, recognizing your own species. It's fundamental to evolution.
Absolutely. But as they looked deeper, the story got, well, a bit more complicated.
And that's where those snake studies get really interesting again. Because what the researchers found was, well, the UV glow didn't really seem to be different between male and female snakes.
Okay, so maybe not just about sex appeal then.
Right. Instead, it seemed really strongly linked to where they lived, their habitat.
And that was a real kind of turning point, suggesting maybe reproduction wasn't the main driver, at least not in snakes.
Yeah.
And they found this really stark contrast.
Yeah, like the prairie rattlesnakes. They live out in the open, right?
Right.
And they showed hardly any UV coloration. One researcher called them ghosts on the landscape.
Which makes a lot of sense, If you're exposed, maybe glowing under UV just paints a giant target on your back for predators that can see it.
Yeah, like birds of prey.
Precisely. Now, compare that to tree vipers. Totally different environment.
Living up in the tropical forests.
Exactly. High up in the trees. And these snakes, they had full UV coloration, just glowing.
Okay, so why would they glow?
Well, the thinking now is, if you're surrounded by leaves and branches, and maybe those things also reflect some UV light.
Ah, so the glow could actually be camouflage up there.
Potentially, yeah. Helping them blend in, stay hidden from birds. And we know many birds do see in the UV spectrum.
Huh. It's kind of like the color green, isn't it? Sometimes green helps you hide in leaves.
But sometimes, if you're a green frog, on brown dirt.
You stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Yeah. So UV reflection might be working like that, like a hidden layer of disguise, depending on the background and who's looking.
It really underscores how much we might be missing, just being limited to our visible light spectrum. Their world could be incredibly rich in UV signals. What looks drab to us might be, I don't know, super vibrant to them.
Perfectly hidden.
Or perfectly.
And it's not just about hiding, is it? Our sources mention other ideas too, like scorpions.
Yeah, the scorpion idea is really intriguing. The thought there is
Yeah.
maybe they use their glowing shells not to signal to others, but to actually sense UV light themselves.
To sense it. How?
Well, maybe to avoid it, like on bright moonlit nights. Maybe detecting that UV helps them know when to stay hidden because they'd be more easily spotted by predators.
So the glow isn't the signal, it's like a sensor.
That's the hypothesis. A subtle difference, but yeah, maybe the ability to detect UV via their glowing surface is the advantage.
Okay, that's cool. Then there was also the idea, for some insects maybe, that the UV glow could be a warning.
Right, like aposematism, warning coloration.
Like the bright colors on a poisoned dart frog or, the skunk stripes, basically saying, don't eat me, I taste bad, or I'm dangerous.
Exactly. Doing that, but in the UV range, which maybe their specific predators can see, it just shows how photoluminescence could have all these different jobs, even just within predator-prey stuff.
But then we get to the mammals, the big puzzle.
Yeah, the mammals are tricky.
Because, like we said, a whopping 95% of the species tested showed this photoluminescent fur. They found it everywhere. Roadkill, museum skins, described as dazzling.
It's like this hidden layer of color on all these familiar animals, platypuses, wombats, squirrels, a whole box of chocolates, as Reinhold put it.
So you'd think, okay, there must be a reason, but then they did experiments, right?
They did. They set up these models, some with glowing rat fur, some with non-glowing fur, and they watched to see how different wildlife reacted. And doing
nothing.
Zilch, herbivores, carnivores, marsupials, even birds. None of them showed any preference for the glowing models over the non-glowing ones.
Seriously, after finding all that glow, that's kind of disappointing, actually.
It was a real head-scratcher for the researchers. Made them wonder if maybe the experiment was missing something. Like, maybe it only matters at certain times or under certain light conditions.
Or maybe we just haven't figured out who they're signaling to, if anyone.
Possibly. They're now thinking maybe the function in mammals is more about daytime UV, perhaps camouflage among leaves, and dappled sunlight. They mentioned tube-nosed fruit bats as a possibility there.
So maybe blending in with foliage again?
It's a hypothesis.
Yeah.
It really highlights that the timing, the context, the specific light environment, it will be crucial.
Okay, which kind of leads us underwater, because that's a totally different light environment.
Absolutely. Our sources point out that the ocean surface layers filter light differently. Blue light and UV penetrates deeper than some other colors.
So things glowing under UV down there maybe makes a bit more immediate sense?
The physics works, yeah.
Yeah.
And there was that story about someone discovering a glowing eel almost by accident.
Right, and that kicked off more searching.
Big time. And what they found is just this incredible underwater light show under UV. Corals, tons of different fish, sea turtles, even sharks.
Sharks glow.
Some do, yeah. Displaying these really vibrant, unexpected colors when hit with UV or blue light. They even built a special shark vision camera.
Shark vision. What does that show?
It tries to simulate how these glows might actually look to another shark. It's like opening a portal, as one researcher put it, into their visual world.
Wow. A portal. That's a great image.
Isn't it? It really makes you think about how much communication, how much interaction might be happening down there that we're completely blind to.
And knowing that some sharks, like cat sharks, can actually see these colors. That's key, right? To figuring out what the glows mean.
Absolutely crucial. It's not enough for it to glow. Something relevant has to be able to see the glow and react to it.
It really does make you think about, seeing these creatures in a whole new light, literally. We could uncover all sorts of things about how they find each other or hunt or hide.
Aspects of their lives we just had no idea about before.
And it loops back to that key point, doesn't it? That there probably isn't just one single reason for all this glowing.
Exactly. It seems super context dependent. It likely varies hugely between groups, even within species, based on their environment, their lifestyle, who they're interacting with.
Okay, so wrapping this up. This deep dive really shows that glowing under UV light, photoluminescence, is way, way more common in animals than we thought.
Yeah, from land to sea, it seems like this hidden visual world might actually be the norm. And that's forcing a big rethink of how we see animal communication, camouflage, Everything.
And while the first thought was maybe reproduction,
Right. The evidence now suggests it's probably doing lots of different things. Maybe camouflage for snakes, maybe warning signals for insects, maybe. Well, we're still trying to figure out the mammals.
that mammal mystery is still pretty big.
It is. But the potential is there for all sorts of functions we haven't even considered yet.
It's amazing to think about all these seemingly ordinary animals around us just, carrying these secret visual signals, totally invisible to us. It really broadens your perspective on the natural world.
It really does. And it leaves you, our listener, with a fascinating question, I think. As we keep uncovering these hidden UV signals, how might our whole understanding of how animals communicate and perceive their world change? What other secret sensory worlds could be out there right under our noses, just waiting for us to find the right way to look?